That was pretty fancy. We even got a countdown to when we got
we
live.
did.
It's like,
It wasn't just like, oh, hey, by the way, you're on.
yeah. While I'm shoving my phone down Casey's shirt.
Like on or off?
It matters whether you can see on
Yeah.
the screen or not.
On is good.
Yeah,
I think
whatever.
on is nicer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on is fine.
It's like a soft glow. It's very
Yeah.
warm light.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in a dungeon.
Yeah.
That's good.
Not yet.
That's very creepy.
I mean,
That
you
happens
obviously-
after you fall down the
Very
stairs.
creepy.
Get thrown down the stairs,
Into the
then you're in the
basement,
dungeon.
too.
Who wants
Is it
to
me?
announce it this
I don't know.
time?
Is it
'Cause
the
I've done-
chair
I've
or is it
done the-
Casey?
I've done like the last two, so someone else go.
Yeah, you're our announcer.
I'm
Yeah,
doing
I-
it. Okay,
you were the
fine.
announcer. Do it.
Fine. Okay. So, welcome everybody. Lost Aspect episode 3. Isn't it 3? 3.
I think
think
so.
so.
Yes.
I was like, I thought you were about to put 2.
No, it's
like,
fine. It's hard because we did a couple before we were actually Lost Aspects, so
yeah.
those count.
We were on to 3, and I got my Mark 3 straight. It's not Mark 2. It is definitely Mark 3 now. I am perfectly here this time.
You have caught up.
I've caught up. So, for those that don't know, I'm Casey, and I'm Legion.
Amanda, mostly officially Signar.
Jackie, Signar, Mystic.
Danielle, minions. I almost said scoring. I really did.
I think that deep down you really do want to be Scorn.
No, I feel so much better.
Do you?
I'm at home.
That's good.
I was just torturing myself playing scoring.
Good. Well, find what you love and do it. Then,
Yep.
right? I'm Celeste. I play Circle.
Yay!
This
Announcement.
This one we say, speaking of Circle.
Yeah,
we'll save that for
We'll save
later.
that for
Hold
later.
on to that. So yeah, announcements. There's a steamroller coming up in Madison.
September 27th.
That's it.
There is a
Someone remembers the dates.
Yeah.
There's a steamroller the week before. Same thing, 75-point steamroller at Gametown in Waukesha. So Saturday the 17th, steamroller in Waukesha at Gametown, and then Saturday the 24th, steamroller at Misty.
Is it the 7th?
The 24th.
Oh, I thought it
I
was
can't
27th.
number.
No, it's
so.
the 24th.
Oh,
17th
okay.
and the 24th.
Well, it's
Last
20-something.
weekend, there was CoolieCon in lacrosse. This weekend.
That was
Just
yesterday.
yesterday, not last weekend. I have no idea where I am today.
It makes two
It's
of
the hair
us.
dye.
There's
Yes.
also a 100-point tournament in October at Pegasus, I think, but I don't know of the exact date of that.
It's October.
Yeah, it's October. That's a little ways away.
All of
Yeah.
October, though.
just a whole
Month-long
plans
tournament.
for the month of October. I mean, a 100-point tournament will take a very long time.
Yeah, that's true.
So we'll just set aside all of October.
Let's see. And then in November is Game Hall Con.
And
War Machine
Weekend.
Weekend. On
Yeah.
the same weekend.
Same weekend. Make up
Womp
your
womp.
minds. I'm going to Game Hall because it's close.
War Machine Weekend tickets have already been purchased for us, so I'm locked into that.
I won my tickets. So.
Yeah, congratulations! I saw that because you posted it, so it showed up in my feed, so I tried to get in too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good job winning.
So that made our decision.
Yeah.
Because we were gonna go to Game Hall Con because it's like, well, it's close, but since I won, I'm
Free
like,
tickets are free
Yeah.
tickets.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pass that up.
Brian and I are in the boat of probably Game Hole Con unless I'm working from home starting in October, which I will have all of September to figure that out, and then it's just kind of cutting things really short.
I am
Sure.
so jealous right now. Working from home. That
Oh,
sounds amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
It's glorious.
I can complain for days about my job, however, most of it has nothing to do with whether I'm in the building or not.
I'm going to neither because I'm a wet noodle and have to work.
Wet noodle.
Yeah.
Like a cooked wet noodle, or just like one that hasn't been
A
cooked.
rigid wet noodle that somebody splashes some water on. That's a whole
Probably
different
cooked.
thing.
Probably cooked. Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be like a cooked wet noodle that like you try to make it do something and it just,
Just-
limps
it
over.
just- yeah,
Flops
it's
everywhere.
It's very
It
flaccid.
sticks to the wall. That's how you know it's done, right? That's how you cook spaghetti.
So it's really more like so it's really more like it's more like
Take
whiskey
all your
dick.
spaghetti out and throw it against the wall, and if it sticks, then take it, scrape it down, and put it on the plate,
I've never
and serve it to your family.
So it's more like whiskey dick than it is a noodle. Okay.
So you're not going to be there because you're a whiskey dick.
Yes. That is 100%.
I'm really glad that we like straightened that out. Anything
gosh.
else coming up?
Not coming up that I can think of, but we were gonna discuss our Journeyman League in Baraboo.
My birthday. You should skip over that. Jeez, thanks,
You're
Casey.
You are the one who should have that.
My birthday's in 2 weeks. I think two weeks.
Are you one of those
pretty sure.
people who celebrates for the entire month?
I'm usually just a day, like a single day person, but I think I might like expand it to a week. It sounds like a good time, especially since my birthday falls on a Sunday this year.
Yeah.
I think we'll be podcasting, not 100% sure, so I demand that everyone is watching and listening that day for my birthday.
We'll bring in cake and eat it
I was gonna
and
say
get it
drinks.
all over the equipment, and Andy will love
And
it.
he would love it forever.
Maybe some drinks too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to a bridal shower previously, and we had a wine punch is what they called it. It was Moscato wine with 7-Up and pink lemonade. It was quite tasty.
That sounds good.
It was very tasty.
It sounds very white girl.
Yep.
In a good way.
That's a white girl's bridal shower drink for sure.
We were going. I created the Fruit Loop cocktail actually, which is very similar. It's a Sierra Mist with cherry wine.
Yum.
That sounds good.
The only person that's ever said that it sounds good are white chicks, though. So
Yes. Us white women will thoroughly enjoy that
We
beverage.
like to mix white sodas with our wine.
yeah, Keith won't even try it.
Thing we do. Yeah. Journeyman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
Your
Well, on Friday we actually went down because the Friday before we stayed home because we stayed at home, and but this week I went against Dax.
Yes.
Dax, and he played Minions, and I haven't really played into Minions besides you, Danielle. So I almost had it. I almost had it with control points. I was at like 4 control points. I couldn't kill one of his little frickin' pigs. But other than that, it was a good game. The Nerf still sucks. I really wish it wasn't in the battle box. But you know, I'll switch it out when I actually am not doing Journeyman League. So hopefully it'll get better.
It sounds like
Yeah.
you're having an overall better perspective. Than
I'm
in
getting
the previous
better.
weeks.
The more I play it, the more more experience I get with it again,
So what you're
and
saying
not play War Spears.
is that all of the I'm upset at Legion because of how much they changed is no longer there now that you've actually started playing.
I mean, it's still there a little bit, but
Just giving you shit.
But I'm still getting used to definitely different units. I did a lot of proxying on Friday.
You have the tentacle rape monster thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We're
I
like
have
theory
those.
crafting. No, the other.
the Hellmouth?
The Hellmouth.
Yeah, we're like theory crafting how to get rid of it. 'cause-
I think that's like the thing right now is everyone's like, how do I deal with the Hellmouth?
Both the
You
Legion
just-
Hellmouth
you
and
just-
the Wormwood Hellmouth.
Yeah, you need to just go straight for the mouth part and
Yeah.
kill that, and then everything else dies.
Legion is definitely running. It seems like more
Stick it straight in the mouth.
right in the mouth, right in the mouth, like deep throat, and it can't
Right
handle
in there,
it. It can't handle it.
Right in there.
Legion definitely seems to be doing the opposite of what a lot of Mark III factions are doing. Like a lot of factions tend to be running less units and more heavy
Yeah.
beasts or
We
jacks.
can't do that
and
because-
Legion definitely seems to be incorporating a lot more of their units.
That's because
in
a
their
lot of the
lists now.
heavies got nerfed.
Nerf.
Yeah.
They did.
So
I mean-
we have no choice.
It is an interesting swap for Legion though because it was very much beast heavy.
heavy.
And that's what Legion should be, but oh well.
I think some of the units are definitely worth having. I don't know what they were like in Mark II.
I played the swordsman in my game, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. And I just wish I could have gotten a little closer to kill more stuff, and I wish I could have killed that friggin' pig, but whatever. I'm over it. I'm over it. But more play testing. I'm still just working with Krissa right now because that's what the battle box started with, and I should really get used to other casters besides just that garage.
Yeah.
And Lily too, and Abby too.
Those are all such good casters.
Yeah, I know, right? There's still no shortage of good casters in Legion. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there's still merits too to sticking with something and making sure like you kind of know it like the back of your hand. Too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't really like. Okay, for me, I'm playing Rask and I'm playing Caliban. So right now, my focus, I have not played a list with Caliban yet. I have one, but I'm really just trying to focus on those lists so that I know, this is how I'm going to set it up. This is how they're all going to deploy, and I just barely, even have to use the card. So I wouldn't feel like you have to necessarily, unless you want to do something different.
Yeah.
It's a really important thing for going into a game when you know exactly what all of your stuff does, especially on a clock. When you're not like, oh, what is my mat and rat right now?
Right.
Or what is my threat range? Someone asks you, you're just like, it's this. You need to look at my cards. Here you go. I'm going to move this model.
I just don't have that kind of memory. Even in Mark II, it's just like, yep, nope.
So I have a question that I just thought of to pose to you ladies, because
What's
I've
up?
been in an argument with Brian about this. Not really an argument.
Which one?
My Brian.
Okay.
I don't really argue with your Brian, ever. I don't think that's ever happened. It's not really an argument so much as just a difference of opinion. We were talking about nerfs and specifically upcoming nerfs and erratas that might happen. People are very vocal about wanting specific casters to be nerfed because they're broken or whatever. And
I know exactly where you're going with this.
well, Wormwood, Madrak too. There are a couple of casters that a lot of people seem to think are broken. I am experiencing a very visceral negative reaction to the nerf idea. Because I feel like it's too soon into the new edition to be, like just because some people are having trouble beating a list, like, okay, well, let's go in and make it less good then. Like, that sort of makes me uncomfortable. I think also part of it is that, I played Bradigus for a year and a half solid so that I could get really good with him, and then they nerfed the shit out of him, and he's a worthless piece of garbage now. And now, like, I'm playing Wormwood as one of my lists, and they're talking about, all the myriad of ways that they think that he should be nerfed. So maybe I'm just bitter a little bit. So what are your thoughts about
I'm going to
nerfing
chime
and
in
errata?
first because I already have opinions on this.
Okay.
I'm going to be playing Maddox and Sloan, so I'm already on the boat of casters that people want to see nerfed. But I think that we really shouldn't be looking at casters that are like, this one is OP, let's get rid of it, or let's change it up, when we don't know what our theme forces are going to look like. We don't know
That's
what
a
we're
solid
getting
point.
new. If things are coming down the pipeline that are now taking Wormwood, who is very effective, and pitting it up against other factions who are suddenly in their theme forces very effective, we just don't know what we're getting.
Yeah. Other thoughts?
Something that I've been talking with my chainsaw people, I guess, is units. Like, when you compare some units to other units, even in the same faction, like, things just don't make sense. So, Brigands, for example, they're, like, almost auto-include for everybody in minions right now. Because they can do Hog Wild, so they can shoot something and then charge something completely different. But then the Frogs, which were, a really good unit back in Mark II, now they're at 10, or wait, no. Pow 10 on their gun, or fire thing, whatever. So they're 2 less than the Brigands, and they don't do as much work as they used to do. I think they're rat less. But comparing the two, it's like they knee-jerked on the Frogs, because everyone really liked the Frogs, and they could take down heavy. And then now they have the Brigands, on the other hand, who also have Prey with the Warlord. And they have 2 pow more on their gun, and it's just like, comparing these 2 units, I've seen people selling their Frogs right now, and before, nobody was selling their Frogs.
Yeah.
Retailers had problems getting Frogs.
I feel like that's what happens when we knee-jerk errata things. Like, if we don't give it enough time and enough play, and just immediately like, oh well, so many people are losing. Like, it. I speak for, I talk about Wormwood a lot because it's a list I play and pay attention to, but like, Tom Guan has lost bottom of 1 with Wormwood. Like, there are still lots of solutions, and so when I hear these people who are like, oh my god, it's so broken, it can't be in the game because nobody can deal with it, my brain gets very like,
Well, it's they're taking something that's like cranked up to 11 and wanting to say, let's turn it down to 4.
right. I can understand it from a perspective of new players, and that's a very good argument that's made. Like, you don't want to create a bad gaming experience for people who are coming into the game who go up against this caster that they have literally 0 chance of beating. But then I argue the reverse of that is that there's still a lot of skill that goes into it, because you can have a crappy Wormwood player and then it's not like an auto lose, it depends on the skill level of the player, and it depends on
I see that frustration happen a lot because I see people, they're like, oh, I play Signar, they're really good, and I'm losing, and I'm pissed because I'm losing. It's like, well, you need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing, that's one thing.
It's definitely a balance. You got to give people the time to learn and build their skill and not create an unfun space for them. But you also, I feel like god damn, every time we're too quick to like, oh, people are losing. Let's take everything good about this guy. And
Mark III hasn't even been official for 6 months yet, has
it's
it?
like 2.5.
Yeah, we're still like, it's in its infancy. We're getting everything new on the table. Everything is just like fresh. And granted, there's some stuff that is the same as it was before, but there are enough changes to enough things that I really think we just need more time with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I think it's more so a problem that they're trying to take things from 11 down to 4. Like, the Haley nerf was a really good example of something they did really, really well. They modified the feat, and that's really all they modified. And that took her down up from 11 or 12 down to 8 or 9.
Right.
And that was a perfect nerf.
That's
not
way
how
more
most of their nerfs
appropriate.
go.
Absolutely.
And I'm totally fine with them nerfing stuff that's at 11 because that stuff is frustrating, especially if you're in a faction.
for sure.
For against Madrak too, is some factions have a very difficult time dealing with that with any list at all. It's
Yeah.
really shitty to have an entire list in your 2-list pairing devoted just to Madrak too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when things get, when you're teching a list in a 2-list environment for one list that you may or may not see, it's very
Yeah, it is frustrating.
Especially when chances are you are going to see it.
But what I'm worried about happening, or what I've seen happen before, is that they pinpoint so they take a caster that has 4 things that are really, really baller, and like instead of just nerfing one of them, they take away all 4 of those
Yeah,
things.
and then that person's useless garbage,
Yeah,
like Bradigus.
Like Bradigus.
Yeah.
I mean, literally everything that made Bradigus what Bradigus was is essentially gone, or at least significantly decreased. Like Synergy's still there, but it caps at 3. It's
I know what that feels like.
everything was changed. So
Can't do the Syntherian Synergy train
I feel
anymore.
like we're on the same page about the nerfs, and that makes me feel good.
And I feel like part of that is just poor playtesting before the model was released, truth be told. Because if
3
they
years?
had 3 years, my ass. 3 years on weekends in their basement.
I was at the
They
store the
spent
other
a
night.
day on a model.
I was at a store the store the other night playing, and someone said, and I haven't validated this in any way, that there was a guy who's pictured in something somewhere listed as someone who did play testing, and they saw that guy at Gen Con, and he said he never played a single game. But they have his picture listed as a playtester.
Well, and it really
for Mark
shows.
III.
I mean, like with Bradigus, if they had playtested him before he was released,
yeah.
and playtested him with the people that are good at the game, then
Right.
maybe they would have known that he was
And
kind of broken.
Maybe they wouldn't be coming out with casters who end up a 12 or a 13.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
they would be able to predict those things and scale it down a little bit beforehand.
And I get that
Yeah.
playtesting is hard, especially on a large scale
Absolutely.
like that.
Right.
I mean, if you don't want the model to get leaked, which they inevitably do regardless.
Right. Well, we
But-
saw that happen with Mark
Yeah,
III.
yeah. But at the same time, I mean, there has to be some line where you don't create stuff that's a 12 or a 13,
Right.
but you can still create stuff that's an 8 or a 9.
Right.
You know?
You can even throw stuff out that's a solid 10. Like,
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I mean, we don't need, like, 11s and 12s are fun, but I
They're
think
fun
that,
for you.
yeah, like, that's
If
about
you
it.
play them, and that's
we
it.
we really need things that are, like, we don't need any ones. Like, ones we should really shy away from. And there are probably a couple of ones out there.
Oh,
I know
sure.
that I have
Bradigus.
several. Yeah.
And I mean, middle of the pack stuff. I mean, nobody plays that because it's just not viable.
Yeah,
Really.
and that's what happens when you have these. Another argument for not having these baller guys is that then you end up at a meta that's exclusively Bradigus and Madrak 2, and it's like 3 casters and that's all you see because nobody wants to volunteer to lose.
Yeah.
It's tough. Sorry, I took totally away from Journeyman to bring that up. It
That's
entered
okay.
my brain, and
That's how the podcast works.
We tried to talk about Gen Con last week and that, not last week, the week before, and it was just like, so Gen Con, totally different subject.
let me look at our agenda. What else do we have on here?
Oh, would now be a good time to bring up the circle jerk?
Yeah,
So we
after
start writing minutes down.
After Journeyman is Circle Jerk. That's what's next on the
Yeah.
agenda.
Jerk.
Oh, the circle jerk.
I can talk about the Journeyman.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
So for the Journeyman, I play Pics because as a Gator player before, I only played Gators. So it was my first experience with them, and I really enjoyed them. I really wanted to play it because I knew I was going to be playing Rask and question mark. So learning about the brigands and how they work with the pigs, it's been a lot of fun. Just sick of the Journeyman League, to be honest. I just want to play normal games and get my practice in.
Yeah.
I haven't even been going, honestly, just because that's all that's really going on is Journeyman Leagues.
Yeah.
I didn't jump in, so.
I think we're done, right? Like this is our week 6. Oh my god, I can't.
I think
talk.
it's the second week of week 6.
I think it's week. I don't
I
even
thought we
know
only had
anymore.
1 week of week 6, because then it becomes week 7 or 6.5, and that's not week 6.
I don't remember.
Um,
Whatever.
I thought it was week 5.
I just know that I have missed 3, like not 3 weeks in a row, but I've missed 3 weeks of play. And I think this is week 6 because I think I had to get 4 and 5 in last week. And then this week we stayed home because Brian was planning on going to lacrosse, and I will yell at him if he's on his feet for more than like a day.
It's not good.
It's been really fun. If this is what being a parent is like, I want nothing to do with it. It's the worst.
Men who are sick, I have heard frequently referenced as toddlers.
It's not that bad. I don't mean to like derail the subject, but I'm just at this point where like if you want me to do something for you, ask me while I'm up and haven't like sat down or started doing the thing that I was going to do, and that sometimes
But I can't reach clitoris. Can you please grab him to
no,
me?
it's bad. It's his knee, and I don't want him like getting up to do stuff because he's not seeing anyone for another 2 weeks, and I'm just like, if you don't see someone sooner than that, it's gonna get worse. But doctors are stupid. No offense.
They are.
He saw his primary care, and she was like, "It looks like it's inflamed. Start PT." That was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Ibuprofen.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not doing anything. Not a damn thing.
No. Would he tear a meniscus or something?
We have no idea yet
No.
because she was just like, "I think it's inflamed. Start
He's
PT."
downstairs, right?
Yeah.
I'll go take a look at him later.
Okay.
This is why my dad doesn't go to doctors, and he has actual Parkinson's disease that's undiagnosed, because he's like, I don't.
There's a really, really easy solution to that, and it's called Cinemet, and it's great. He should go see
So
it.
with my dad, he like knew a guy once. My dad's the kind of guy who like has one black friend who thinks that black people should just get over it, and then like adopts that as an overall premise. My dad knows a guy who had Parkinson's who took medicine and said that the side effects from the medicine were worse than the actual Parkinson's symptoms, and so now he refuses. He just won't.
It's
I
all
think we talked about
everyone's
this last
different.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, we see a PA, we see the same person, and she's phenomenal when it comes to me. And this was like the first time anything's come up where I'm like really questioning the advice that she gave,
Right.
and I'm just like, it's a knee, and he's still in pain and unable to do things. I think maybe
Yeah, it
that
needs to be
usually
taken a
is the
little
first
bit
thing that
more
we do, though,
serious.
is- Yeah.
just I don't know, but. Journeyman League.
Yeah.
Back on topic. We've missed a couple weeks, and I'm actually I feel like I'm behind because I haven't gotten as much play in with Maddox as I'd like to before I start moving on to the 75-point games. But I know when I'm running for 75-point games, it's probably just easier to start and just start it. I haven't even started painting yet, and that's where
If you are in the Milwaukee area, we just finished up the Journeyman League at the Waukesha store, and we are now starting next Thursday. We're starting a new Journeyman League at the new Games Universe store in Franklin, which is a new store that just started doing gaming events, and that's going to run. And then they're also going to do a Journeyman starting, I'm assuming probably when that one finishes, at Realm of the Dragon in Tosa. So if you are in the Milwaukee area and missed the one in Waukesha, you'll still have hopefully 2 more opportunities to do the Journeyman League. So if you guys want to drive out to Milwaukee once a week,
I'll get right on that.
yeah.
Pass.
that far.
It's about 2.5 hours from my
it's
house.
rough.
And Milwaukee's a hot mess right now. So
Yeah.
all right.
So the circle jerk.
Yeah.
So
Circle jerk.
I'm sure plenty of the people listening got to experience it, but you
I have no idea
two-
what
I
happened.
have no clue.
Okay.
'Cause I wasn't part of the circle
So,
group to look at it.
I was alerted when you guys
Yeah.
posted about it in our Facebook chat.
It was definitely, it started as just I literally put my first comment was like before all the shit started. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. Because I
Yeah.
like saw the cliff and I saw us all marching towards it, and I knew what was about to happen.
So to try and sum it up, someone posted a paint job of their Tanith, and it was
Really good paint job,
yeah, it was a phenomenal
way.
paint job. But the caption of it read "Thick Thighs Tanith," and that was it. Like nothing like, "Hey, check out my sweet paint job," or let me talk about the techniques or how hard this model was to paint, or anything else. It was literally "Thick Thighs Tanith."
And the first comment was, "Hey," something to the effect of, "Don't talk about her body like that. She's a strong, independent warcaster, and she don't need no man." Right? That was the first comment.
They
And
just
then-
get better.
Yeah. And then the second comment was, "I'd bang." And then my comment, "Jesus Christ."
We hadn't even jumped off the cliff yet.
No,
at this point.
we were just marching towards the cliff with smiles on our faces. So Travis Marg, bless his soul, stepped in, and he apologized to me later for like white knighting it, which it didn't come across to me at all. I was so happy for someone to step in. He was like, "The sexism in this thread is disgusting. You know, like, this is terrible." And then that unleashed
That was the jump.
the
Off the
deepest,
cliff.
darkest scum from the bottom of the cesspool of people to come up with all of their opinions, and it turned into just a nightmare.
Yeah, it was 450 plus comments.
Holy
Yeah, it exploded.
It was a nightmare.
I will say that a handful of them were like, I posted a meme face. Or
10 different memes. Like, whenever anybody would say something stupid, Amanda would just post somebody's face.
I mean, I started posting the NFL logic fallacies.
it got so, it
point,
was
it was
so
just-
bad. But there was just like this back and forth of people who are just like, this isn't an issue at all. Why is this an issue? We're not talking about women. We're talking about a model. And then it was, are you stupid? Because you're definitely talking about a woman, whether she's a piece of plastic or not.
It was the same guy who said his first comment was "I'd bang," and then when Travis was like, "This, you know, this shit is terrible," his response to that was, "It's not a real person; it's a piece of plastic." So then we were like, "So just to clarify, you just said that you would bang a piece of plastic."
I mean, blow-up dolls are
You
a
want
thing,
to
Celeste.
put
You
your
would
penis
know of all people.
on a piece of plastic is what you just clarified for us, correct? And that was one of the key players that was in
Now,
it the whole time. Like,
I will
blah,
admit,
blah, blah,
Celeste,
blah.
that is a little bit hypocritical because you are a purveyor of pieces of plastic. Like,
I mean,
you were just saying before the cast that you forgot the double-ended dildo.
I mean, there's no
Like,
problem with
clearly we
banging
would
a piece
bang
of plastic.
plastic.
I'm here to say, you
It's
need plastic
acceptable.
that's actually made for that purpose, for it to be body safe. But that's a whole other thing. Yeah, so then it went from there. So I'd like to highlight like two of my favorite arguments from this thread. As first of all, it got to a point where after this happened, I actually disabled my entire Facebook account. Like, I have some personal stuff going on in my life, and I had some other things that were happening, and this on top of it, that was hours and hours and hours of this. At one point, I was in my car, and I had to pull over because I was sobbing because I couldn't handle the conversation anymore. And so I actually had to remove myself. I actually deactivated my Facebook account for like a solid 24 hours just so that I could regroup and not hurt myself, because I was in that whole thread really stuffed me down into a really deep, dark place. But it got to a point at one point in the conversation where Zosha came in and she was like, "Okay, ladies," because there was me and her and Jackie and Amanda, and then Elizabeth Spangler was in there for a little bit.
Her post was phenomenal.
Yes, and like several other women had come into the conversation to participate, and Zosha was like, "Okay, ladies, so why don't we just, since all of these guys think that this isn't a real problem, why don't we just tell our stories about what's happened?" And then it was, posts from me and Zosha, and I think maybe you guys a little bit. Maybe
I don't
not.
remember.
So
But
we're
I
posting
remember
like
you two.
actual examples of things that had happened, and that was the point where I sort of crossed a line for me, and then I had to walk away. But my two favorite arguments were, Tiny Penis Guy. Do you remember Tiny Penis
Oh
Guy?
yeah, Tiny Penis Guy. His argument was great. His argument was other people have hurt me and made fun of my tiny penis. I really wish I had his name because I really want to call him out by name as Tiny Penis Man.
I
And
don't
then-
remember his name. Jeremy, maybe?
I don't remember. I don't
Jeremy
fucking
sounds
care.
like something.
Jeremy sounds like the name of a guy with a tiny
So,
penis.
so his
Just kidding,
argument was.
Jeremy. Just kidding, Jeremy.
So his argument was, other people have hurt me, therefore it is okay for me to hurt other people without
Yes.
any thought.
And when you backed him into a corner, he ultimately came down to basically just, it's stupid to have a conversation about this one time of oppression because you're ignoring all of these other types of oppression.
Because
like,
all
it's
lives
not
matter.
okay to... Classic Jeremy. We can't talk about sexism in gaming because also sometimes fat people feel bad, or also sometimes ugly people feel
Yeah,
bad.
it was the non sequitur, and that's where I started posting galactical fallacy
yes.
memes because there's a really good one for
He
that.
went into a very long. The reason he got named No Penis Guy is because he went into this very long thing about how he considers himself to be fat and he has this tiny penis, which was hilarious because then I shared a story about a time that I tried to have sex with a man who had a very tiny penis, and then we just went into this whole other conversation about tiny penises, and then he tried to go back on topic, and I was like, "Sorry, dude, I'm still thinking about your penis. can't go back there."
Yeah, you can't cross that line and ever go back.
He was the definition of circle jerk because his logic was just circular. You could talk him to a point where he would start to understand, and then he would come back with, "Okay, well, but," and just restate his original.
He was very
statement.
similar to the people that are with Black Lives Matter. Well, if it matters so much that law enforcement officers kill black people, why don't we care about black on black crime? Well,
Right.
that's not the fucking
That's not
topic.
what we're talking about right now. Like, yes, we can talk about that later, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So the guy number 2 that I like to highlight is the guy, I think his name was Chris something, but I don't know for sure, who posted a picture from some sort of fluff book.
The Butcher.
The Butcher picture. And it's a the cover of a book, and it's got Butcher, and he's beefy and muscular.
His head is
and-
this big, and
his
his
body's this big, and he's just got these giant pecs, and he went on and on and on about how that's an oppressive. That's oppressive sexualized imagery of male models in the game as well, and therefore it's not actually sexist.
Butcher
it's
is
just
like the least sexualized model ever, though.
This
He's like a big,
image, though,
creepy fuck.
This image was this was questionable.
it was definitely like sex, like a romance novel-esque, the way they sort of portrayed him, where he was, like he was,
pull up the image.
yeah, see if you can find it. But it was, he was big and buff. And somebody tried to do the same conversation that we always have about how sexy women is a male fantasy and buff men is also a male fantasy. So it's not, a buff man is not actually oppression against men because that's just a male fantasy that men put on themselves that they want to be buff. No women sit and look at that picture of Butcher and
Yeah, no thanks.
rub their clitoris
Yeah,
or anything.
no,
That's
that's
not something that happens.
I mean, we all know exactly. This is the picture, by the way.
He looks kind of like The Rock.
The fluff about Butcher, and know that that's not something I am interested in.
I don't want to have sex with that.
No.
If The Rock took a lot more steroids, that would be what he'd look like.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
That's not sexy.
No thanks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that
And
away.
he was another person that it was like you could try, and you could talk, and you could talk, and you talk.
Oh, hello, Alex from London.
Hello, Alex from London.
No, it's not the same thing. We agree.
Yeah, definitely not the
clearly.
same thing. Yeah, so that was my second one, and that one was it literally came back to he kept arguing, and this is my giant takeaway from the conversation. It was this particular guy, this Chris guy, because throughout his thread was like a sub thread all on its own. And
There were so many
there
of
were so many
those.
comments there. And this particular guy, I have to tell you, my takeaway from this is that that something bad has happened to this guy. Because he was very suggestive multiple times in the conversation that he had personal experiences in the game where he had felt unsafe. Now, I don't know whether he was just saying that because he wanted to say it happens to men too, or whether that's a real thing that happened to him. Because, I would talk about how you would be hard-pressed to find a man who has to worry about his physical safety when he goes to a con. You would be really hard-pressed to find a man who's been touched inappropriately at a PG event or something, because that's just not the reality of what situations are like for...
I'm only going to interject. I feel like inappropriate touching happens between men playfully.
Yeah.
Playfully.
Like, in a,
They already know them. They're like friends.
What I'm getting at is the, I can't even remember the game where like you put your hand on someone's thigh and the person who like chickens out first, the closer you get, like that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I definitely
Which
think
is
that
homophobic in nature, but whatever.
I won't disagree, but
Yeah.
I'm saying I think that stuff does happen, and that can make people feel really
can.
uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
they play along with it. But
yeah,
go
that's,
ahead.
That's totally fair. So all of this, multiple times in the thread, to in response to things I said, in response to things other people said, he kept talking about like, that's just your biased opinion. That happens. I have personal stories, and I finally at the very end of the conversation, I was like, please tell me where this is happening. Because if that's happening to you or to another man at your meta, or if you're seeing that happening, that's something we need to know about. Because you're right, if that's happening to men, if men are feeling uncomfortable because people are sexualizing their bodies, or if they're feeling like they have to worry about unwanted touching, absolutely yes. That's something that we want to stop, and that's something I would advocate for. And he shut down and wouldn't say anything to me after that. And in a really passive-aggressive way, like, no, I'm not going to mansplain anything to you anymore, like, total asshole.
Yeah, I think he was just being a shithead. But
there
I mean,
are
that is-
two. Yeah, there are two possibilities. Number one, he's a fucking troll, and that's totally possible. But on the off chance that he's not a troll, and that something has happened that he feels even more uncomfortable sticking up for himself about, because he should be able just to take it as a fun joke or whatever, I definitely think that is something to talk about. And you go to a PG, or if you don't feel comfortable going to a PG, you find someone to talk to. Because yes, at the end of the day, your overall premise that sexism can affect everyone and shouldn't be accepted no matter who it's against is a valid premise. You can't debate, in the part where I totally lost this guy, was the idea that it happens significantly more to women on a completely, like, societally and inside of gaming, and that's a specific conversation about how we handle the sexism against women in gaming. He could not get on board with that. But definitely agree that if it's happening to no matter who it's happening to, it's wrong and it should be stopped. The other big thing was like the butcher thing and talking about the fat guy. Who is that in Scorn?
Rashad.
Oh, Rashad.
Yeah. And
There is nothing sexy about Rashad.
no, it was the opposite. It
Well,
was
it's
like, how
okay
come
to
we're
make
allowed
fun of
to
fat
how come
people?
we're allowed to make fun of him and call him the fat guy, but we're not allowed to talk about women. And that's also what I consider to be a valid takeaway from that conversation. It's the same thing that I said about these Trump statues. You heard the story about the Trump statues, the like dickless
Oh, tiny
naked
hands, tiny
statues
penis.
that were put up all over the country of Trump. And I was like, it's funny to laugh at, but at the end of the day, there are millions of people who are going to look at that image and see a reflection of their own bodies. Whether it's the whole body or whether it's just parts that we're standing there laughing at and mocking, and that looks to them like a reflection of themselves. So by mocking that body, we are passively participating in the pain of those people. So yes, giant takeaway from that conversation, in my opinion, is that that's just not something that should be discussed. Even though it seems lighthearted and funny, someone is going to see something in themselves in us making fun of that particular model or that particular person or that particular imagery, and then we are participating in that person's pain, and that's not acceptable. So that was sort of like my takeaway from that, is that yes, we cannot do that. That's something we can not do, and to make it more fair for everybody. There's my soapbox for the day.
I guess I had a little bit of a different take with the Rashad, because I kind of feel like Rashad is more of a caricature of a fat person, basically. That's part of how he's designed, because the Scorn are much more into lean, pain, other aspects of their culture,
Sure.
and Rashad is the polar opposite of that, and that's a big part of his character. I guess I kind of feel like the same way with Scar. Actually, she's kind of a caricature of a prostitute. I mean, one of her attacks is Great Rack, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That's just how a couple of those models are made. Is they're caricatures of an occupation or of a type of person.
Right. And that was definitely that one guy's point, was that the blame belongs on Privateer Press and not on the community for creating a
think
game
there's some-
wherein those types of things exist in the game mechanic itself.
And I'm not sure that I accept that entirely because
I don't know if I
privateer,
do
well,
either.
privateer created, we're still
Yeah,
perpetuating
and
it.
that was my point. Like,
Yeah.
the community...
There's
like,
mutual guilt.
because the obvious example there is Tanith herself, which is where this whole thing started, whose model is not created to be overly sexualized in any way.
No, not at all.
And yet here we were having a conversation about her sexy thighs.
And how much we
because
bang them,
Men
yeah.
and how much we would bang them because men see every woman and rate it on its whether or not they would have sex with it.
Yeah.
You know, that's where it all...
10 out of 10 would bang,
Yeah.
not bang.
Yeah. Which
Just
is the
keep
whole
going.
thing that...
No, I think for me, there was a little side conversation that happened that I took part of. It was just a short, small, like someone had commented about how this is ridiculous or something. I can't pull it up because it's already deleted,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
great in itself because that shouldn't be something that people can see and continue to perpetuate. But they had said that this shouldn't be something that we are addressing publicly. We should see the person who's making the comment and approach them individually. And I disagree with that
Oh, yeah.
completely. And like,
Oh, yeah.
I returned and said it's not one person, it's multiple individuals. And there are more people here who are supporting them but just haven't said anything. And this is at its core a community issue and it needs to be addressed as a
Absolutely.
community and within the community. And I don't think we can just...
Sweep it
Sweep
under
it
the
under the
I
rug.
don't want to say sweep it under the rug. I think like it's really important
No,
for an individual to, if you're feeling uncomfortable, like going and reaching out to someone or reaching out to a PG, but in turn, that person or that PG should make it clear whether they single that person out, like one-on-one, not single them out in a crowd, and just say, hey, this is unacceptable, you either stop or you leave, or address the entire crowd. And not call that person out, but say, these are things that we have seen happen today, and they need to stop.
Right.
And if I see it happen, I'm going to ask you to leave.
Yeah.
It does need to be brought up to these people, and it needs to be something we all work together on. Otherwise, it's going to continue.
Yeah, and the other real solid retort to that is that if you pull someone out privately and talk to them, then anything that happens in that conversation is now a he said, she said.
Yeah.
There's no like. I wasn't here the last time to talk about my personal experience, but I just had this happen at a store where I had to call some guys out for some conversations that they were having, which is a whole long other story. But the short version of that story is that I was telling these men that over the course of several months they had created an environment that felt unsafe to me, that I didn't feel comfortable in the store, that I didn't come to the store as often as I would if I felt like they were going to be there. And the verbatim response back to me was, nobody is forcing you to be here. He pointed to Brian and said, Brian doesn't drag you here. If you don't want to be here, there's the door, you can leave. And then he ended up the whole thing by saying, I'm not going to stop. And that was our conversation. And if we had had that conversation in private and I went and told people that that's what had happened, nobody would believe me. Nobody would believe me that those were the words that came. They would think that I was exaggerating or that I was making it bigger than it was or that didn't actually happen. He would be able to say, she's just upset, she's just emotional, that's not what I said, that's not what I meant. But as it stood, I said it in front of a room full of people, and there were multiple people who got to see it and who got to hear it and who were able to back me up when I took that to the store owner. And so there's a very clear reason of why we don't have these conversations one-on-one.
No.
People need to see what these assholes are saying so that they understand that we're not lying when we talk about having these experiences.
Well, I think the other thing that comes in, like, kind of like Travis being the white knight or whatever,
Yeah.
we need people to stand up.
Absolutely.
Too, and
Yeah, there's a big difference between seeing an injustice and speaking out against it and white knighting.
Absolutely.
Like, Travis was not white knighting.
No.
Nathan was not white knighting.
No.
None of the men that were there that were taking the side of this is wrong they were not white knighting, period.
If you're trying to take the voice away from the women in order to talk for them, that's not okay.
Right.
But standing up and saying this is wrong, in addition to the voices of women saying this is wrong, is absolutely the right thing. That we need more men to do that so that the other guys know that that's not a place where they're welcome to talk like that. You know, that's not
Also, total side note, if anyone wants to start a shitstorm like that again, I have plenty more images to retort. I have lots of them saved.
Sorry, you're
I am a
saying-
master shit poster.
It almost started up again immediately after
It did.
was posted. It
'Cause
did.
he reposted the picture of Tanith and called her Tanith the Controversial. I thought that was funny.
That was pretty good.
As you were talking, something that like you were saying, like to go and tell somebody about it. The thing that popped into my head was the Dragon Ball. I need an adult.
I need an adult.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it literally these conversations happen and people don't believe that they're happening, or they try to purposefully like choose not to believe that they're happening so that they don't have to acknowledge it. So having the conversations in a public forum where people can see them and hear them, and then it's not disputable that happened,
Yeah.
is a really big.
I'm sad that it got deleted, but at the same time, like you said, it can't just keep on going and going and going.
No,
Yeah.
if it
But-
sits there, someone else who is like-minded with the people who are perpetuating it are going to come and just continue to drag it out of the mud.
Yeah, I'm glad that I'm glad that it's deleted, because it got very personal for me, and I was talking about personal actual things that actually happened to me, and not having those there to accidentally pop up in my newsfeed again is great. I got really sucked into it real hard, and then I was like, please take that away so that I don't have to look at it anymore.
Yeah. There's a note. That super puts an exceptional onus on the persons who sees the problem if they are expected, I can't even read this, expected to say something about something that people are systematically oppressed by. It's kind of the job of allies to do as well.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, and just by nature, oppressed people are going to be less likely to feel safe speaking up for themselves because they're oppressed people. I mean, that's just the psychology of what happens when you're an oppressed person.
Well, and that is the thing of it too. There are the few of us that did speak up. You personally, I mean, you obviously do give a fuck because you had to disable your Facebook. Zosha, myself,
Yeah.
0 fucks are given.
I am, whenever there is an argument like that to be had, I am right there for it.
And that's
because again, 0 fucks are
Oh
given.
no, I give fucks, but I give no fucks.
You know what I mean, though.
I
Yeah.
think that that's probably one of the things that I am most envious of as a feminist and frustrated with myself about, is that I am very soft. Like, far more soft than I would ever want to be. Like, when I had to approach that guy in that store, I couldn't even, like, I got two or three words into the first sentence, and my voice started shaking, and my eyes filled up with tears, and, like, 2 sentences in, I was just sobbing. And I'm thinking, well, that just totally takes all the wind out of my sails. I don't seem like a strong person who has a thing to say. I'm so terrified, and I have such bad social anxiety. Like, I just immediately started crying. And that's my biggest... part of me loves the fact that I'm so sensitive, and part of me really hates it, because I can't not feel bad when those conversations, they get to me. They just, like, dig at me, and I don't know why, and I don't know how to stop it.
I feel similarly, but I get, like, angry. Like, I don't get sad.
Yeah.
I'm just, like, I am ready to tear someone apart when they act like that or respond that way. And that makes it bad on me if I try to approach them, because I'm just ready to, like, go to fisticuffs.
Yeah.
I'm done with your nonsense. You either are going to do things the way I am requesting, or I'm beating the fuck out of you, because I care not.
Since I was a small child, I've always said that crying is my way of displaying every single emotion that I have. So if I'm really happy, I cry. And if I'm really sad, I cry. And if I'm really angry, I cry. And that's what happens. I do the same thing. My first reaction when this shit happens is to be so ragey and, like, wanting to punch things and knock things over, and then it comes out in tears and shaky voice. And I'm like, fucking A, Celeste. Come on with this. Really? I don't know.
Meanwhile, I challenged somebody to a ball showing contest.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was fully prepared to get a flesh-colored water balloon, trim off some of my own pubes, and glue it to it, and whip it out somewhere. Like, I was on board with it. I will absolutely have the bigger balls.
Brian reiterates that the guys should not take over the conversation, but just sort of, put their weight behind the women who are
Yeah.
having the conversation.
I think there came a point in the conversation where the women were just so done. Like, we were just, that it was almost appropriate for the men who were there in defense to continue that.
to step up.
Because we were just like, I
Fuck it.
couldn't even. I was,
Yeah,
there were comments that I was just like, the person who was like, if you get upset about us commenting on a piece of plastic, you're psychologically inadequate. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
That was one that I was like, just couldn't
There was
even.
just, there were so many of those though, like just little things, and I'm just like, did you make it through school? Like,
Right.
did you graduate high school, or did you get through like kindergarten and just decide this isn't for me anymore, I'm done? Because I like your English was there and everything was grammatically
No,
logical.
There were some grammar errors in that one, but I decided not to point them
I
out.
will give people yours and theirs. If you're on your phone, it's acceptable. I fuck them up all the time because of my phone.
Right.
But when you can consciously put together a legible sentence, but the context of that sentence is so far beyond logic.
Incomprehensible. Like, you
Yeah.
couldn't even understand what his point was.
Well, like, the words together made sense. Like, it was a sentence, but the things that they were saying were just like, the fuck is
No.
wrong with you? You want to call us psychologically inadequate? Like, what are you're basically saying that if you are a human and you have emotions and you are an adult, you have problems.
Right. We should all just be emotionless
Robots. Yep.
Essentially.
I mean, I want to be a robot. That's totally cool and all, but we are not robots. And so if you have a reaction to something,
yeah.
that's normal. It's how you go about that reaction that determines your psychological inadequacy.
Right, exactly. And that was and I told Brian, like, I would like for the environment that's created through all of these conversations that we're having, I would like for it to be the kind of environment where a woman doesn't have to be able to take it and be rock hard like you guys are. Like, good for you that that's the way that you are, that you can handle all the shit that's thrown at you and it doesn't bother you. But I am hopeful that someday women don't have to masculinize themselves or, like, desensitize themselves in order to be able to go into these spaces and be comfortable.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
that no situation should arise where somebody's made to feel so bad that they cry, and women shouldn't have to, like, take off some of those more. If we are sensitive, we shouldn't have to, put on a coat of seal blubber to have thick enough skin to go in and play games. Like, that's not the environment we should be creating. So I'm hopeful that these conversations will, I don't know, maybe that's stupid.
Well, we are at an hour.
Oh, what's
Just
next?
just
Let me
over
look
an
up the
hour.
agenda.
So we should probably move on to the next.
The next thing on the agenda.
The next thing on the agenda is dick pics.
It's unwarranted dick pics.
Unwarranted.
No, I have that after.
Oh, okay.
Well, do you want to just do that now because it's short?
Sure.
Okay.
Never
Okay.
mind.
Danielle has something very important to
Postpone
say.
the dick pics.
So after a couple of podcasts, I had some friends and people I know that were kind of like, oh, you guys kind of come off like you all hate men. We're just going to come out with it and say it. So I just kind of wanted to say, even though we're talking about these subjects, we don't all hate men. Not all men are terrible. There are good people out there.
Most men are fine.
Yeah. I mean, all 5 of us are in relationships with men.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously we don't hate all men. And I don't think any of us have ever said anything that to the end that we all hate all men. I think that if that's what you're taking away from these conversations, then you're not actually listening.
Or
That's
or
just-
choosing not to
or
comprehend.
choosing
I think
not to
it's a
comprehend.
choosing not to comprehend issue with most people, I think.
I'm going to go ahead and be this person, because this is one of the things that makes me angry that people say, like, oh, all of my best friends are guys. All of my best friends are guys. I am not a person who hates men. I really, really dislike men who post things like, oh, look at this piece of plastic. I'd bang it.
Yeah.
So just wanted to throw that out there for
Yeah.
the people that, and, we all have different opinions on stuff, and we can talk about it decently. So
The other
it's
thing,
not-
on that same line, I'll say this, and I feel stupid having to say this, but if something that someone says, if you're a listener of this podcast, and something that someone says affects you that you think is shitty or terrible, don't take that to Danielle. Danielle didn't do anything wrong. If you think that I'm a fucking extreme feminist and you hate me, please bring that to me. I will tell you why you're wrong, but that's not Danielle's burden to carry, or Jackie's, or Amanda's, or Casey's. You're welcome to message me, and I'm happy to talk to you about it.
On the flip side, because we talked about keeping things public, unless it's specifically like, I hate Amanda, she's a bitch, which I'm sure is out there too. Trust me. But I think that if you have a problem with the things that the podcast does in general,
It should be on the podcast.
yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it should
We
be.
should
We
all
have
know.
a Facebook. You can comment. You can send the Facebook group a message. It should be something that, again, if this is something that we want to bring out to the community, you should address the community.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that that's best because it takes the burden off of the one individual to carry the weight of whatever your particular concern is. Like, that's not a thing. I also think that it's important to understand and make sure that we're reiterating that the 5 of us are not all on the same page about every single topic, and that doesn't mean that we secretly hate each other or don't get along. Like, we represent a myriad of
What you're talking about.
viewpoints.
I hate everyone on this room right now.
I mean, whatever, but I mean, yeah. If you have the best thing to do if you have a problem is to post it on the Lost Aspect Facebook page so that we can address it as a group,
Yeah.
or
I think you
or
can
private
message us.
message
Yeah.
the Lost
Yeah.
Aspect page, and we can address it privately if whatever. But it definitely doesn't need to be the burden of one of us to hear you complain about what you didn't like that person A or person B said.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation that we should never have to have again because y'all are adults.
We'll also have a Twitter page eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we do.
You can tweet shit.
I think he got that.
Fuck Lost Aspect. Feminism.
Hashtag.
Hashtag this sucks.
So on to the topic of dick
Yes.
pics, because
Let's
this
talk
is a
about
great
dick pics.
segue. So I think I brought it up before. I moderate a forum, and I don't understand what it is about people who see that you're a woman posting on the internet, but apparently they think they need to send you a dick pic. I don't know if any of you guys have experienced this.
Well, I mean, they have to prove to you that they are in fact a man, right?
I guess
And in
so.
return, we have to post vag pics of our axe wounds between our legs to make it so that they know for sure that there are in fact women on the internet. I mean, that is a thing, but not everybody believes it.
So I've gotten plenty of dick pics in my life, all unwarranted. Just
Well,
ever.
because find me one woman who's ever said, "Hello, stranger, may I see your dick?"
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it's happened.
Tumblr.
But
Well,
and like, I can see Zosha
whole
doing
app
that. Like, I can totally see Zosha doing that. It's just to
be
troll
fair,
people. But
I have a Tumblr, and I never ask that question.
No.
But most of the time,
I'm sorry,
I just
not
end up on
Tumblr,
my
Tinder.
newsfeed
Tinder,
anyway.
rather.
Tinder,
There's an
yeah,
app for
Tinder
that.
is good
Yeah.
for that. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a Tumblr for
So
that too.
you
That's
see
good.
lots of
Yes,
dick
there
pics.
is. So my point of this conversation is, as we've already discussed, you shouldn't send a dick pic, an unwarranted dick pic. Don't do it. But if you're taking a photo of your dick to send to a person, preferably they have asked for it. But could you maybe check the scenery?
We don't need a toilet there. We
An
don't need
unflushed toilet.
An
I've
unflushed
seen
toilet.
dirty underwear, unflushed toilets, like animals in the background. Like,
Women's underwear.
yeah, just don't do it. Like, if you want to take a picture of your dick, make sure it's presentable. Like,
Like, clear the area. Like, this is like should be like a headshot.
yes.
And
you
these
get
aren't even
professionally
euphemisms for manscaping or anything like that. This
No.
is just don't take a picture while
Yeah.
you're sitting on the pot, like
Right.
taking a dump.
That is not sexy. Like, if you're trying to get us somehow sexually aroused by your terrible, terrible dick, that's not the way to do it. Like, on a toilet.
We don't
is not
hate
gonna
men,
do it
really.
for us.
This isn't an I hate men
Okay,
conversation.
but seriously,
I have
like
seen-
90% of dick pics I've ever gotten, I've been like, that's not something you should share with your friends.
No.
Like,
They're. I mean,
sometimes it's just imagery. Like, that was a bad angle, dude. Like, learn how to, like, top down, elongate, you know,
like take a lesson from like your sister's selfies or something.
my
Like
God. Do
learn
not take a lesson
lighting.
from your sister's selfies while doing a dick pic. That's bad advice. Don't do it.
But like you need the lighting, you need the angle. You just. But the background is what gets me, because I have seen so many things beyond the dick and the dick pic that I want to gag at it. Like, and that's not even like, oh, your dick is so huge. It's literally like, that's disgusting. Why are you sharing this photo? So I don't know how this topic came up. Brian and I were talking about it this morning, but I felt the need to share with all of my male listeners. Just take a good photo of your dick if you're going to send it to someone.
here's a good reason why you should never send them, though. I have a friend named Shannon who did a Snapchat story where she just screenshotted, like video shotted, every dick pic she's ever gotten with the guy's name, full name, right there, because it was in her inbox, right? So if you send somebody a dick pic, they can take that picture with your name attached to it and distribute it however they please.
Yeah.
So, like, just be prepared if you're going to send it to that one person that everybody's going to see it. I sat there, it was like 50 dicks long. Snapchat story.
That's a whole deck of cards.
I just laughed. And
That would be a great deck of cards.
Some of these guys, like, what is the thing where they hold, like, a can of Arizona tea next to their dicks?
Because it's like
To show
really
off how
big.
much smaller
Right,
it is? Like,
no,
come on.
that Arizona iced tea is always going to look bigger than your penis. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you're trying to
hold it
accomplish,
up next to
you're
a pencil
failing.
if you want to look
Right.
big, okay?
Look at how thick it is. It's way thicker than this tiny pencil. Like, that's what you do. Like, so many of these, like, beer cans, like, because apparently beer can is like a euphemism that they use when their dick is really thick or
Or a
something.
brick, I guess.
I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
That's gross.
Yeah,
I thought
the
it was
thought
just.
of putting a beer can into my vagina actually terribly off. I don't want that.
Yeah,
It-
bricks are abrasive. I don't
yeah,
know.
no. I mean, to think of the lube I would need.
Lube is the best product ever, by the way. You are completely right.
Yes, lube is amazing.
Non-related comment.
Lube is incredible. I do a whole training on how great lube is. I feel very strongly about lube. Use it. Yeah, but no, she did this whole thing and it was hilarious and it was just all these dicks with all these guys' names on it. And like then these guys were messaging her and being like, dude, you just put my name on my dick. And so then she would respond on her Snapchat story like, yes, I put your name on your dick. It's your dick. You obviously feel proudly enough about it that you sent it to me. It was funny.
I find that really interesting that men who would send, and I'm maybe just being a little assumptive here, but men who would send a dick pic would be upset when the woman who receives it shares it.
Yeah.
But if the woman had sent nudes, they would definitely share it and be
With
like,
their
what?
friends.
It's not a problem. I shared this with my 20 friends.
Right. There's definitely a double standard there, for sure. The whole thing is a double standard, but that's larger, more complex issues.
I also just want to bring up John Oliver from like last season. How the government has all your dick pics.
Yes.
Wouldn't it just be precious if all of your dick pics ended up with your resume whenever you tried to apply for a new job?
Every unsolicited dick pic. That's the thing about stuff like that, dick pics, and then like like racist comments and stuff. I just posted a picture that was like, dude, your clancestors did not hide under sheets every night for their entire lives so that you can go out talking racist on your public profile with your name and your job on it. Like, don't put that stuff where people can share it. People will contact your employers. I actually have seen women contact the employers of guys who send unsolicited dick pics and like forward it to the employer.
I've seen one woman that sent it to his mom.
Yep, that's
Just
That's
forwarded
my
it to him
favorite.
along with the message. Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I do when I get the, hey boo, you sexy, and then I'm like, no thanks, not interested. Fine, you ugly as fuck anyhow, I didn't want to be with you
my
anyhow. I'm
God.
like, screenshot, mom, every time. Like, is this how you raised him to talk to ladies? Because that's what he's saying.
Nope.
Oh god.
No thanks.
Never received a dick pic.
You're lucky.
You're not missing much.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's really,
It's gross.
I mean, there's Pornhub if you want to see it.
yeah.
That's better there anyway.
Yeah, well,
I mean, there aren't unflushed toilets in the background.
Yeah,
Unless
they're
that's
better-
your kink.
They're better photographers. They manscape down there. It's like,
Do.
yeah, they know what the fuck they're doing. Unless you're Brad Stone, don't take dick pics.
yeah, the whole dick pic phenomenon is another good example of how you can't say that men experience the same body shaming issues that women do. Because, like, women do not unsolicited send naked pictures of themselves to, like, most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident that when we receive an unsolicited dick pic and we respond with my handy dandy Pokemon picture, your penis is so tiny, I almost didn't notice it.
Oh, that's such a good
That's a good one.
I mean, that retort, I think maybe isn't acceptable, but you're opening yourself up to it.
Yeah.
Like, versus no woman out there, not no women, but
Very
most
few
women
women.
aren't being like, look at my vagina, here you go, congratulations, now
And
you
the
have a
ones
picture.
and the ones
Maybe
who
that
are,
should become a thing.
but see the ones
mean,
who do
vaginas
that
aren't
are
pretty.
instantly shamed.
Yes.
They're told that they're sluts, or people sit and talk about whether or not they have some sort of mental disorder or like daddy issue or deep-seated psychological problem that would
Or
cause them to
STDs.
seek that sort of validation.
We don't
Like-
say that to people who send dick pics.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. I mean, are all of these men psychologically impaired
Inadequate?
that they need that they need validation of their penises? Like, no, it's unfairly distributed. So there's a place, there's a sex-positive, LGBT-positive Tumblr that curates dick pics and puts a positive and inclusive spin on them. It's called Critique My Dick Pic. So, thank you, Alex from London. If you
Well,
look that
let's,
up.
I wonder if we
Go
could just
there
start
right
photoshopping buns, like hot dog buns on them, and like Photoshop them into food objects or something.
That's precious. Let's see. Critique my dick pic.
I'm gonna look it up too. Why not?
Oop, it would help if I could spell critique. Or dick pic. I am the worst. Okay.
Okay, speaking of grammar, since they're looking it up, I have Adepticon on my Facebook page, and they, for the most part, their grammar's good. But then today,
It's a disco ball
It-
dick. Oh my god!
oh gosh,
The black and white
I
dick.
didn't find it.
Oh my god! I love that.
Sorry, Casey.
it's okay. They did than instead of then, and it just it got me because
put that on our
it's
page?
Adepticon.
I don't know if that's
Can that be,
appropriate.
can that
I
be
did
our,
not.
Our background
I
splash?
will maybe, but still, it's just like, come on, then and then. You're adults. You should know this.
Oh my god. What's wrong with this?
Why won't they let me look for critique my dick pic?
I'm sharing a dick.
Is that a
So
math
that's
song
what
or a
I mean.
lady
There's
song?
underwear in the background. He's got socks on. Those socks are probably dirty. Like,
Oh,
I mean, I guess I'd rather see
Oh,
socks
there!
than
Look
feet.
at Arizona Tea.
Oh my god! Yeah, he looks. He does. He does. He does look really small by comparison.
Hit the
This
fan.
is
Whoa! Disco ball.
Oh dear.
yeah.
Oh
so,
my god, that's the equivalent of vajazzling.
So we just had the joy of looking at a dick covered in little rhinestones. Well, they weren't rhinestones. They're like the little square ones. Like looked like a disco ball.
They're the mini squares on a disco ball.
Yep, that was precious. That's why I threw my phone. I just couldn't handle it.
I don't understand.
So
I'm gonna
gosh.
spend a lot of time
I'm
browsing those
gonna,
dicks.
I'm gonna have to find it on my Tumblr. How did you? Maybe I just didn't look for it right.
I just googled it.
yeah.
See,
I
at
guess
least
I
the first
pulled
one
out
that
my
I found, the
Tumblr.
Dick Noir. That one's at least a good picture. You know, that's. I mean, it looks large by comparison to the rest of them because of the
Yeah,
angles.
yep.
And, you know, it's like there's no toilet in the background. That's not bad.
How do you take a
I'd
picture
give
like
that one an A
Like-
minus.
You probably use your webcam.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I'm so innocent. I don't even.
This is a dude with a garter and stockings and women's underwear on, showing off his dick. That's,
Fantastic.
No, they have boobs too.
Oh, they have boobs too. Okay. Okay.
We're gonna follow that.
Yeah.
Okay. Follow. I'll enjoy that later.
So I have one more thing that I keep forgetting about from the very first podcast we did, and I literally, like all day long today, kept remembering it and reminding myself so that I wouldn't forget, and I almost forgot. So somebody, when we had the very first Lost Aspect episode, the official one, I posted it in the Circle forum, and somebody commented as a response, like, we got tons of amazing feedback. Somebody commented, their response was,
Sorry.
that's okay, let me see it. I know, with the stuffed animal, right?
Stuffed snake.
A dick next to a stuffed animal. Like, that's
It's like a kid's like my
Weirdly,
that makes
my
it
15-month-old would play with that
Slightly
toy. Not
more
the dick, but-
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm like-
when you're like, it's like a toy my child would play with.
That's creepy as
no.
fuck.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, we've had enough of
That
dick
one's
pics.
a good one. That's a great dick pic.
Yeah.
There wasn't even a dick.
It's like a lizard with. Oh, there was no dick in that pic.
No.
Okay, that's a good one. My favorite dick pics have no dicks in them. So this guy commented on the thread and said, "Hey, great podcast. Only suggestion: less talk about dildos."
Oh, that's not why I'm
no.
upset.
That's not what you're upset.
There was
Yeah.
a different one that we never talked about either.
Oh
can
yeah,
talk about that one
was
next.
the one that said he doesn't base his podcast off of whether they're women or their race or the sexual whatever. but you need to talk more about War Machine and nothing else.
It was leave your gender out.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't know how I leave my gender outside of the room when I enter a location to start
Right.
talking about something. I am inherently
And, like,
female. Everything's coming out of the mouth of a woman.
Crippled
I'm sorry.
System talks about War Machine like 2% of the time.
Yeah, they're listening. You guys are
So-
listening to the wrong podcast.
Yeah.
Go to Muse.
Yeah,
3%.
3%. I'm just
Andy yells
breaking
from
everything.
Yeah,
downstairs.
go,
3%
go to
of the time.
Muse or
Yeah,
somewhere else.
sorry, that's
then.
not what this is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Um,
that's the thing too. We're not like saying that we're experts on War Machine,
Right,
No, we're clearly
not
all
being
not.
like, yeah,
I-
we're the best players.
Another
of War Machine.
commenter commented and said, "This talks about War Machine more than most of the War Machine podcasts that I listen
Yeah.
to." So
I think
in-
we do a good,
We're
like,
doing okay,
yeah.
yeah.
at least it's close to 50-50, if not more toward the side of less War Machine. But I think we started out with, like, Journeyman League. What?
and after WITC, almost our whole podcast was
Yeah.
War Machine. Like, I
Yeah.
think we're fine. Screw that guy.
Yeah.
No, so this guy said, "Great podcast. Everything was great. Let's talk about dildos." And this is my response to that,
Aw.
as the dildo salesperson. This is my response to that. I've listened to Crippled System for a long time, and every single episode, I would give you $5 that at least in 90% of the episodes that Nathan is on, he talks about jerking off or jizzing at least once, right? Like, it happens, and I'm gonna also venture another $5 that no single person has ever asked them to stop talking about masturbation. So I'm just gonna pose as a response to that why we have so much casual acceptance of dudes talking about jerking it all the time. But the microsecond you suggest the idea that females also masturbate, now all of a sudden it's an inappropriate topic and we shouldn't be talking about it, and we should just stay on topic of what the podcast is about. If men can talk about jerking it to, whatever it is that Nathan's jerking it to today, then I'm going to talk to you about lube and about my dildos every single time.
To be on the flip side, like, I think that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, to I guess, okay, it makes sense to me to compartmentalize female sexuality, basically saying you're sexualized when I want you to be sexualized, but not when it's you doing it to yourself.
Right, exactly. Like, men really prefer to see women in a sexual capacity only when their penis is inside of their vagina. Like, that's the capacity that men want to think about women as sexual beings.
This goes back to my wonderful, I think this one just got overlooked like most of those 450 comments, but I am uncomfortable when we are not about me. That's all it is. Like,
Basically.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not fair. That was and I had that reaction, and every single time that we've gotten together since then, well, last time I wasn't here, but every single time I've been like, I need to say that about the dildos, and then I forget every time, so I'm bringing
so
it now.
silly.
I'm not going to stop talking.
I wonder if
mean,
it
first
makes
of all, it's
them-
my job.
Them,
I talk
and
about dildos constantly.
That's fine. It's what makes you you. But what
What would I be if I didn't talk about dildos all the time?
I don't understand why it's so uncomfortable. It's not like, I think not the last time. There was a time when I was on a Crippled System cast, and we talked about the 3FAP, which is basically a fucking ninja throwing star for, like, what are they called? I don't know. You might know the term, but you put your dick in it, and it's like shaped like a vagina
A
or
male
mouth.
masturbation sleeve.
Yes, except it
Oh.
was like a 3 different one. So if you wanted a butthole, you had your butthole, and if you're like 10 seconds in, you weren't feeling it, and just
Switch it.
Swap
I
it
saw
around.
one that's reversible, so that has two different like surfaces. Like, one's ribbed like a ribbed condom, and the other one has like a diagonal pattern for the man to like choose his comfort level. But I don't have like a 3-way frisbee shaped.
Yeah, I think
choose
it
your
might have been
adventure.
more like a pan pipe.
Yeah,
so
I
you
also
just like
have-
slide it across in your
I have a vibrating suction cupped one that you put onto your bath wall, and then you just stick your dick in it and turn it on, and it vibrates. So I have that as well for the guys.
So we just want to talk about those things and see where like the comfort
I
level
bet if I
is.
talked about those, the guys would have no problem. It's fine to say, like, stop talking about it, but in the reality of my job, I talk to 70 to 80% of the women that I talk to did not have an orgasm the last time they had sex. 30 to 40% of the women that I talk to have never had a G-spot orgasm and don't even know how to find it on their bodies. We live in a country where women are not taught and don't know. and I will absolutely, ad nauseum, until you men are uncomfortable, talk to women openly and publicly about it, because if you're getting off every time, we should be getting off every time too. And if I have to teach every single woman in America where her G-spot is, I will do it. Not personally. Although, whatever. But whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to keep talking about it.
Makes me go back to the thing you shared this morning, the 15-year-old girl and the 30 dicks.
Oh yeah, that was
yeah.
great. So we had,
At the hospital, right?
yeah, it was a hospital person. So we have one nurse that was just running around the entire hospital, the entire unit, yelling 30 dicks. 30 dicks!
She was mystified about it?
She was just mystified
So
about it.
here's
like,
my question, because she came in for an STI test, right?
something like that, yeah. I didn't ever, so I didn't really know the gross details of it.
That's what I'm looking for.
The gross
was
details.
it?
I know they
she-
swabbed multiple orifices, and there's legal sketchiness there too. I can only say so
That's
much.
fine.
Because, yeah.
My confusion
Privacy.
was, did she come in because she had just finished with 30 dicks, or she had reached
That was
30
just
dicks
giving
in
her
her
personal
lifetime?
history, and she, yeah.
That's where.
Because a lifetime 30 dicks is maybe not all that impressive.
when you're
Well, when you're
15, that's
15.
impressive.
Yeah, oh, at 15, I guess, yes.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It was like 30
I mean,
dicks
she was-
at one time, and I was like, God.
She does like bukkake.
What I thought I was just like
30 dicks in
30,
one
she
session.
sucked 30 dicks
And I don't
in one
know.
night.
I don't know what time period this was. I'm pretty. She was underage. I don't know exactly how old
Right.
she was. So I just threw
But
out
it was
15. But
it was
yeah.
30 dicks. Something
Yeah.
she at
it
some
was,
point in
we
time
had
she
a nurse
disclosed
going around
something.
going 30 dicks around the unit. Well, I've got somebody who's having a stroke somewhere else. Not because of 30 dicks, but
I don't know. I think when you've hit 30 dicks in a night, you probably are ready for a stroke.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Like, I just
Well,
imagine like 30 guys lined up, ready to go, and be like, hey.
I'm pretty sure
That's
that's in a
how a
porn
lot of the
somewhere.
porn
porn
stars
I'm
are.
sure. That's definitely a porn somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
hope
what
that
porn
she's
stars
okay.
do. Like,
30
but
dicks in a day?
it's not that, but it's in their vagina. Like, they have literal videos. Like, they're at, like, a festival, and they just fucking line up. Like, 100 guys in a day.
I watched a documentary about girls
It's-
that go into porn
Yeah.
and what they like the
Yeah.
process, and they're usually only in it for like 4 or 5 months, and then they are like, you know, retire or you know, whatever. But the whole thing was like the process of how they left their homes because they were whatever, and then they met these guys, and then they got into the thing or whatever. And it's crazy what they do. Like, this girl was like, my vagina hurts. Like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Can't imagine.
Yeah.
Nope. I think there's a lot. We just derailed completely, but I think there's a lot
We
of
talked about War Machine a little.
problems in the porn industry for women.
Oh,
like
yeah.
there are positions that are so uncomfortable that they don't make sense.
No.
Like what you can't.
Only from the man's like visual perspective is that
Yeah.
good
and that's
at
what
all.
it is a visual perspective, really. It's
Yeah.
easier to see certain
There's no
positions.
way that is a thing any woman would ever be comfortable doing. I mean, comfortable, like physically comfortable.
Yeah, like,
Like,
your
on your
bladder
head.
is definitely pressed in positions where you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm more concerned about pissing on you right now,
Yeah.
so I hope you're into water sports.
That's what's going to happen right now. Yeah. No, that positions. I hope that 30 Dicks is okay. I hope that she's fine.
I have no idea.
None of those dicks did any damage.
I don't think
to
there
her.
were any regrets for any of the 30s.
I mean, I
we
think
didn't,
the nurse
we didn't,
was
call, we didn't call the
exclaiming.
sexual assault
Speaking of
people, so.
minors and 30 dicks, no, this is actually really an interesting statistic that I read, and I'm going to see if I can find it on my Tumblr super quick. I probably have to go back, but it was about, it just started off with like a teen mom, how there's no shows for teen dads, and someone was like, yeah, it's because I don't want to watch some 16-year-old kid play Call of Duty all day. Because very often when you have that situation, the young woman is the one who's changing her life, and the young man is not.
Right.
Which is whatever it is, because that's not always the case. This was a statistic of the age group of the fathers of these, the children from the teen mothers, and I have to go back quite a bit. I'm sorry. Just gonna keep flipping through my
Do
Tumblr
it.
here. Oh my god. If you guys looked at this shit, you would just think I'm the worst person. I am a terrible human.
That's
but,
my Facebook page.
I have to find the exact statistic, but it's really just like men between the ages of like. Here we go. Okay. Men between the ages of 20 and 29.7, so 20 and 30, father 39% of the children born to teen moms age 15.
That's creepy as
That
fuck.
is a disgusting statistic.
That's gross.
Yeah. Yep. That's a real thing. So I think that none of those men probably regret it, but I think they should. That's how I feel about that. Because when you are a almost 30-year-old human being and you are fathering the child of a 15-year-old girl,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for anyone who ever wants to argue that rape is not a real thing, 20 to 29.7, what was the 30%?
39%.
39%.
I think.
Of 15-year-old girls who have babies were raped,
Mm-hmm.
according to the definition of rape, to make those babies.
Mm-hmm.
So let's all just think about that for a minute.
Yep. It just like it gives me chills. It makes
gives
me
me
like
ickies,
it makes me sick.
I remember being a kid, and it's funny how sometimes things hit me, and I realize how psychologically manipulated I was, and I didn't realize it was happening. But I can remember being in like the 8th grade, and then in high school, and adults on the regular would tell me like women should always look for men who are 5 to 7 years older than them, because men mature slower than women do. And so even from that age, I was being told that I should be looking for, you know, if I was 14 then, 19 to 21-year-old men,
Yeah.
you know, right at the age where I'm starting to get feelings in my body. You know, now they're telling me, like, you need to look for men 5 to 7 years older than you. Like, that's gross as fuck. You know, if I'm 14 and I'm going to do it, I should do it with a 14-year-old. Like, I should. That way we're both equally terrible at it.
It is weird to think because Brian is 6 years older than I am, but we started dating right when I turned 20.
Yeah.
So like that's not as
Well,
awkward.
I don't think there's a problem with age differences
Yeah,
in
no.
consensual adults.
No, I mean like when I was still younger and still like dating people prior to Brian, I don't think I ever dated anyone who was like outside of 2 years older than I am. And it's just like I don't know, that's just a weird like to me it's really I don't know when you're like 15 and they're like 20.
Yeah.
That's not even
But when
like,
you were 15, Brian was 21.
he was. And we
Womp
did not know
womp.
each other.
And you
And
did
I
not have
probably
sex.
would not want, I would be like, no thanks. I'm
Well,
15.
And that's a complete myth, too, that women mature more quickly than men.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
People
Wow.
mature at different speeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Period.
But that's what I was going to point out is that you're at a totally different stage in your life. Like, even if the 20-year-old is, and I'm being really assumptive again because I just assume things about people, but I imagine someone between 20 and 30 who is fathering the child of a child already is probably not someone who went to college or went to, like, has a job that pays him well or things like that. But she is 15. She hasn't even gone to prom. You are at the youngest 20. You probably drink. You probably, you know, go out party with your friends. You work full time. You probably have a place of your own, or you're those sort of things. Like there are totally different life experiences between 15 and 20 that like. I don't understand
You're still a dependent at 15.
Well, and
Yeah.
You've
I-
never been independent. when you're
Also,
15.
also probably wildly speculating and making lots of assumptions.
Yes.
I'm going to say that most of the time when 20 to 22, 20 to 29-year-old men have sex with 15-year-old girls, they're not anticipating pregnancy and they have no plan to make that relationship anything longer than I'm going to bang this 15-year-old girl. So
That's probably true.
I mean, if we want to correlate then the situation that we have where there are lots of children who are being raised by single mothers who don't have active present fathers in their lives, and then relate it back to the fact that these guys were probably just looking for a good bang and ended up with a accident baby. Like, completely different stages of life. I doubt that these guys are in long-term committed relationships with these girls, as much as the girls might think it, or like hope it. I don't think that that's reciprocated.
And there is a certain amount of magical thought with that too. That I'm going to have this baby, therefore he will stay with me and love me.
Yeah.
And that's just not how it
I
works.
hate that.
I have that happening with a very beloved family member of mine who just did that. Her relationship is terrible, so she decided to have a baby with him. And then they had a baby and it was still terrible, so she decided to buy a house with him. And it just continues to be perpetually harder to watch. And, you know, to be supportive, but also to see it like you keep doing these things hoping that it will cause him to settle down or change when he's not gonna
I almost wonder if that's like something that like young girls are raised toward. Like we have this idea, and maybe it's just me because I am not this kind of person where like I don't want kids. I don't have that like fairy book romance idea. So I don't know, like maybe my parents just raised me wrong. But
Weirdo.
like we like I know a lot of girls when I was growing up in high school, that was the idea, like the things that they wanted out of life were like immediately out of high school was marriage, children, house. Like immediately. There were no thoughts of school, there were no thoughts of like anything, like no ambition beyond that. And that is perfectly acceptable if that's what you want out of life. I don't want it to come across where I'm saying like these are stupid ideals, but so many women, that's what they want out of life. And I almost wonder if that's really just the way that like our parents and society push us.
Oh yeah.
So that we
From
think
birth, when girls' aisles are like kitchen sets and strollers and babies, and like from the beginning, it's the way society teaches girls what they're supposed to do.
I will say I am proud to have 0 dolls so far in our house. There's stuffed animals.
Nadine was going to be the
there's-
butchest little girl ever, and then she literally, if you ask her what she wants to be when she grows up, she says princess. And then you say, okay, but Nadine, what are you going to do for a job? She says, duh, look for a boyfriend. Like, somehow my daughter has become the, like, epitome of what I was trying to have her
I
not
respect
be.
that. I too want to be a princess and have someone cater to my every
Yes.
whim.
I mean,
I
will
would also
support
love
her.
that.
Yeah, she'll be the best fucking princess in the world, and boys will be lining up for their application to be her boyfriend. So she will rock it. But that was not my. When I was pregnant and I found out I was having a girl, I was picturing like buzz cuts and like button up, like I was super lesbian then. So like plaid shirts and like no, that's not the kind of person she is. Turns out babies have their own ideas of what they want to be.
Surprise.
Okay.
Children are their own people.
And I'm sure society molds that too. I
Yeah.
mean, how much, regardless of what happens in your house, she's not in your house 24/7.
Yeah,
right?
it was
Nadine's in school.
shocking when she was in K4 last year, and within the first couple of weeks, she came home saying like, Liam is my boyfriend and I'm going to marry him. She's 4 years old. Like, it was shocking to me how quickly that became. Well, that was not something we had ever talked to her about before, and then she started wanting to have dates with Brian, where she would have a daddy date and she would come up to me, like she would walk, they would have pizza, they'd sit down together and have like teacups with water in it and little pizzas, and she'd come up and be like, this is a really good date, daddy's really handsome and he lets me have all the pizza I want. Like, yes, that is what entails a good date. That's 2 thumbs up. But like it was so funny how she started school and then instantly it was like things we hadn't taught her she learned. What the hell? Don't understand. Yeah. So that brings up a question that's totally unrelated. You don't have children, and you don't have children. Do you? I know you don't want to have children. Do you guys want to have children?
Eventually.
Someday? Just not yet? I know that's a weird we just know the answer to
Casey
the
and I
three of us.
already had this conversation where she is able to go to Gen Con with me next year because she's no longer planning to get pregnant in September. So
yeah, we have a plan too. Like Brian and Brian finally convinced me not to have a baby until after the wedding. So I'm like, okay, but wedding night, you're not going to like that's what's happening on the night of our wedding is I will be pregnant, or I'm divorcing you.
I feel like I go through such like great strides and efforts to be like child free, and it just.
Do you ever get any mom urges? Like, do you ever?
I have 3 younger siblings. I am the oldest by 6, 8, and 10 years, and I had really bad parents, so I've already mothered.
You've done that. So you don't have any sort of, you don't ever get that sort of baby fever phenomenon that, like when I wanted to get pregnant, literally, I was driving Katie to work and we had to stop because there was a doe teaching her fawn how to walk in the middle of the road. And I was like, fuck you, Earth, and everything inside of it, that this is happening to me right now. Like, that's the kind of shit that would start happening. Like,
No, I mean, like, kids are cool. It's not something, like, I don't know, like, they're cool to hang out with, but I just don't see myself being anything more than, like, I could probably teach you and it would be fun.
Sure.
Just not I don't know, they're gross.
Do you have a
I was totally on board with you there
Not
until
really.
I started working with kids, and I was like, this isn't so bad after all.
But Aurora's cute and she climbs
Yeah.
ladders.
Yeah. Oh God, she
She unloads the dishwasher.
She unloads the dishwasher. She climbs up onto our coffee table and leaps from that onto the couch. She's such a little turd.
Something that I always had, well, not problems with, but like when we wanted to have a kid at some point, like naming the child, because I'm so, like, we kind of want to name it something different, but I don't want it to be so different that it's like, this is completely stupid.
I have a good
and-
story about the name.
I have a really great story. Do it. The other day at work, I walked past someone's cubicle, and their name is Mark Clark.
Oh.
Mark Clark.
Yep.
Mark Clark. Mark Clark.
I can give you lots of terrible names from working in the ER.
I'm sure.
Lots and lots
I'm
of
sure,
terrible
yeah.
names. So when Keith and I were deciding what to name Aurora, I had my ideas for names. He had his ideas for names. He would go through my ideas of names, and he would come up with hooker names or stripper names for them, and turn every single name of mine into a stripper name.
Oh god, that's fantastic.
That's very reassuring.
And
right?
he talked me out of every single one because he made them all into stripper
Was
names.
Aurora his name?
Aurora was his name.
Yeah. Womp womp.
Uh-huh.
Whenever we're going through names, it's just like, no, I knew someone that name with that name.
Yeah.
It's just, no.
There are some
not
names that are awful.
There
There
were-
like I knew a douchebag with that name one
Yeah.
time. That
Yeah, we
has
had,
to not be.
yeah.
we had a couple of those too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no Michaels.
Brian wants, if we ever have children, Viking names. And I'm just
Very
like,
Brian.
yeah. And but the thing
is
is,
a good name.
all the names that he spews off are like masculine names, and I'm just like, okay, so it's obvious we can't have a female child, otherwise she's going to be like Bjorn. Like, sorry, I don't know. Your dad picked it out. Don't blame me.
Brian's cousin is a teacher in Florida, and she got her class roster, this was probably 2 years ago now, for the first day of school, and saw this name and assumed it was a typo. So she was doing roll call the first day, and she saw the name and thought it was a typo, and so she was like, okay, do we have Rihanna in the classroom? And this little girl who's, I mean, it's like third grade, so this little girl's like real young, stands up. It's Dash Rihanna. Her name has a hyphen at the beginning of it, and it's pronounced Dash.
I know of a Ladasha, LE-AH.
Yep. I've heard that story before.
Dasha, yeah.
Not like, it's just, oh man.
Absidy, ABCDE.
Yeah, Absidy is a very popular girl's name, actually, surprisingly.
Shithade, SHITHEAD.
I feel like there's the common one now is like Nevea, like heaven backwards. Like, fuck you. Be more original.
I have my exact reaction to that.
I have a real serious stereotype in my head whenever I meet somebody whose baby's name is Nevaeh.
They're white.
Does it involve
And they live in a trailer.
I was
that's
gonna
just my personality. I know that that's terrible. Please don't. Yes, you can tell me I'm a terrible person.
It's the
I
same
know
as
that,
Candy with an I, or
but- Yes. Like I just
God.
picture.
on the
I'm
subject
like,
of stripper
no.
names.
Also, a really good one. A lady at work, because we were talking about Mark Clark, worked previously with a man named Rusty. His last name was Nail.
That's just
Why
clever.
would you do that to your parents? My dad's actual middle name is Burger. Like Burger.
One of our teachers' last names was Burger.
No, yeah, but it's my dad's middle name.
Yeah.
If I were a boy, I would be John Burger Brooks the Fourth. That would be my name. So thank God for my vagina.
I legitimately tried to change my middle name to Trouble when Keith and I got married with our name change. And I was really upset with him on the day that we actually got married because he would not let me. He physically
very
crossed it
Phoebe
off of
from
our
Friends.
he physically crossed it off of our legal paperwork for our marriage certificate.
He should
I
have let
was
you do
so
it, but then
mad.
changed his name to Crap Bag. That's what he should have done. Like, That's
I mean,
from
he's
Friends.
I mean, he's Keith Bob, so he's pretty redneck too.
His name.
Yeah.
Keith Bob.
Keith Bob and Jethro. I mean, those.
Oh. I love it.
I feel like if Brian and I were to get married, I would use it as a free pass to change my name. But my full name, like, I don't know what I would be, but I don't know.
Yeah.
My name is Amanda Marie. Like, my parents were, what are the two most generic names possible that we can give a child? I do have the benefit, though, of I was also supposed to be a boy, so I was supposed to be Joseph Paul, which is Amanda Marie. I don't know how you get that. But after myself, all of the young females in my family, half of the side is very Italian, all also have the middle name Marie. It's
very Italian.
Yes, but their first names are feminized versions of their fathers. So I have a cousin that's Polly Marie, and I have a cousin that's Frankie Marie, and I'm just like, thank God I am not Joey Marie, because that would be the worst.
They could have at least done like Josette or something.
Or Jolene.
No,
Yeah.
I am. Yeah, I'm completely fine with Amanda.
In comparison, I'm fine with Celeste Nicole over John Berger as well. I mean, my dad was heartbroken, but I'll be fine with Celeste. Actually.
I was also supposed to be a boy, but it was gonna be Casey no matter what.
Yeah, that's the joy of Casey. Is that you go both ways.
Yep. Oh yeah,
She
you
does.
know it.
Have you guys thought of names, or are you just like?
Kind of. Like, okay, so on my mom's side of the family, like, my mom has, I don't know how many sisters, but they're all D's.
Oh,
And then
God.
I was named Danielle. And so then the names we were ironically thinking of started with D's too. And I'm like, I don't really want to go down that lane. But I've also, like, tried to, like, think of, like, well, could there be names from, like, things that we like that we could use? But I don't want to get, like, Dante. Like, that's stupid. But, you know, like,
I have a feeling Daenerys is gonna be a popular one in the next few years.
For a while.
like, there's this lady down the road that Aaron talked to, one of the, like, they live there forever, they're really old people. But the wife, her name is Sonia, and I'm like, that's a normal name.
Yeah.
And that's in Heroes of the Storm. So I like that name.
Spelled with an
We're
I
all
or a
fine.
J?
It's with a J.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
So y'all are gonna hate me and judge me for this, and I'm prepared for this. This will be the single thing that you judge me about most in the world. Nadine has a reference in her name, and the boy name that Brian and I have picked out, if we have a boy, I'm really hoping for, because there's a similar reference to Twilight.
I am judging you.
Yep, I knew it. I was just waiting for it to happen. I have Nadine's middle name is Carly, which I'm not going to explain the reference to you, because I'm assuming you don't know, because I'm assuming you didn't read any of the books.
I
so-
read
No.
about halfway through the first.
I read all of the books because I'm that person when I start something, I need to finish it.
I love it. I know. I really like people judge the crap out of me for it, and like question my loyalty as a feminist for loving it. But I really loved it
It's
in a weird way. Not
written to a point to make you continue reading. I
Yeah.
feel like it's. I feel similarly towards most popular literature,
Young
but
adult fiction especially.
I'm also someone who spent like 5 years of their life studying literature, so I have a really highbrow opinion about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna judge everyone.
Right. Well, and I don't. I cried for like a week when I finished reading the books. The same thing with the Hunger Games. When that was over, I had to stand over a sink because I was crying so hard that there was too much water. So I literally stood over the sink so that my tears would have a drain and to go down. Yeah, so I have references to Twilight and Nadine's name, and then in future boy's name, if there's a future boy, which makes me terrible. But
Yeah,
also,
I'm just judging you.
you go ahead. I'll take it.
What about you, Casey? Have you got, and John thought of anything?
John.
Well, the boy has to be John because it needs to be John the 5th.
Can you name it middle name Burger?
We already know a John Burger.
Do you really?
It's-
Because his last name is
His
Burger?
last name is Burger. Yeah. But John likes Haley for a girl.
He would.
Yeah, he would like Haley. Fucking Signar, whatever. I like Amelia.
I like that name.
cute
That's
name.
cute.
And the funny thing is, my mom said, if you weren't Casey, you were going to be Amelia, which is also hilarious. So
That's a good name.
Yeah.
the only reason I like it, because I always hear, I'm a big fan of Underworld, and I watched the shit out of that movie, and although Amelia's only in it for 2 seconds, she was beautiful, and I just love the name.
That's a cute
So-
name.
Yeah, I like it.
So John and Amelia.
Yeah.
Those will be your two. I'm predicting it now.
Yeah.
Twins.
If Aurora were a twin, we would have done Victoria and Gloria for Haley and Denny. Yeah.
Zach, one of the players in our meta, named his child Alistair shortly after he started playing War Machine.
And now he hasn't been there for like the whole Journeyman League.
Yeah.
There
Yep.
It
aren't
could have
really
been from
that-
Dragon Age too.
That's what they like to say it is.
Yeah.
But the name was going to be something different until he started playing War Machine.
Oh.
When I think of Alistair, I don't even play the game, but League, I know the cow's name is Alistair.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
So I think of
When
it
I
like
think
that.
of Alistair, I think about this old, what are they called? The shows that are on during the day that women soap opera.
Yeah.
There was a soap opera called Passions for a while that had a character in it named Alistair. Right? Wasn't that one in Passions? Alistair?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Sure.
Never watched enough soap operas.
But I didn't watch them like at all. But we should probably head on to recommendations.
Yeah,
No,
I told
we can
Brian to
see-
send Andy up soon.
I can go. Don't fall downstairs.
Don't fall downstairs.
Last night, I put lotion on my feet and I put some socks over them, and then I'm like, I gotta get clothes from the dryer. And right at the top of the stairs, just went right down. I have this big bruise on my arm. It hurts like hell. So,
It'll be better.
someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm worried more about your side that you said was hurting and whether you've got deep down bruises.
Down here. Actually, I felt it when I sat down. Like, oh, I think I did bruise my butt right
Yeah.
there.
That's no point.
Don't swallow metal objects. That's my takeaway from this weekend. Unrelated to anything we've talked about here.
So we've sort of switched into recommendations into non-recommendations. Things you should not do. To follow up with that, Brian and I started watching this Netflix exclusive show called Between. Not recommending it. He last week recommended an anime that people complained about because it jumps the shark all the time. Episode 3, there was a tiger. To give you the premise of this show, it's a small town somewhere in Canada that is suddenly infected with a disease that kills X people. So episode 1 is the introduction to everything. Episode 2 is basically fencing up the town. Episode 3 is a tiger escapes from the local zoo.
What?
Yes.
Because every little town has a local zoo.
Yep. I actually think it might have been a big cat rescue, but that's neither here nor there. That is the trajectory of this show.
Yeah. That sounds awful.
Interesting.
We are still watching it
Ugh.
because we need to finish it now.
That was like the last 4 seasons of Lost. Only doing this because I need to know what happens.
I don't even know what happened. I still.
It don't.
Yeah,
I still don't know what happened. Did you
Don't.
finish it? Because that's normal.
Yeah. After the last episode, I went, no fucking idea what just happened. No fucking idea what
That's
I
why
just
they call
saw.
it Lost, because they lose you.
God. It was.
The only reason was to watch for Sawyer. That was why I watched.
Okay, he is really
Evangeline
Oh, yeah.
Lilly.
He should be Gambit. Sorry. Totally Gambit.
I can agree with this.
Yes, thank you. And the people at our group were like, no, he's too old. No, fuck, he ain't.
I can agree with this. If he can pull off the
Somebody's commenting
vocals.
about. Someone commented about
Twilight.
Twilight. I love you, Joseph 1313.
He might be trolling you.
Oh, fuck you.
To be fair, I think the movies. I think we actually watched like the first 2 movies. Did a really good job.
The
They were
last
well
movie
done.
is very good in my opinion, but I have opinions about it, and that makes me nerdy enough. So.
Robert Pattinson is actually a decent actor. I kind of felt bad for him.
There was like the meme that no one hates Twilight more than Robert Pattinson.
I'm pretty sure there was truth to that.
What's his face? The werewolf guy. What's his face?
Oh,
He was
Taylor
Shark
Lautner.
Boy. Taylor Lautner.
Yeah.
He was also a fantastic
He
actor.
is fantastic.
And maybe it's just because I bought into the whole. I was very much a nerd girl about Twilight. I get really angsty about the people who criticize Kristen Stewart for her acting.
She's also a really good actress. I
She
think
is.
people really like.
Is she? I haven't seen her in
She's
anything
been
else.
in
that's
other
good.
movies and
In
she's
the
actually
Snow
really
White
good.
and the Huntsman, it wasn't bad.
She's actually very good, but she was criticized for being too like expressionless throughout the movies.
Emotionless. Yeah.
Which is
And that's why I didn't care for her.
Yeah,
Was
that was
she had one expression.
the
And
standard
it
opinion.
marginally changed, but not.
I think
which
people
makes
also need
more
to-
sense if you read the books and understood the character. And
Also,
that's the thing.
the
like,
directing.
people,
Yeah.
the first one, the directing, Kristen Hardwick or whatever her name was that did the directing was terrible, terrible. So, but that's neither here nor there. I think you're right. He's probably trolling me, which makes me feel sad. I love Twilight. I still watch the movies regularly. Go ahead.
My recommendation is Pure Romance.
Oh,
I've been
yes,
trying it.
Casey won free stuff for me in a thing that we were doing. So she got a giant bag full of goodies. Cool. That's your
Yeah.
recommendation.
I've been using the coochie.
Yep, coochie. Everybody needs coochie.
It's very nice.
It's not a light up thing, the coochie.
No.
That's where you draw the line. It's like,
Just watch enough Bob's Burgers to catch that reference.
It's shaving conditioner.
It's a shave cream.
Yeah.
It's called coochie.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
It's wonderful. And also like the little spritz that you do after shaving, the aftershave stuff. And the oil shave stuff. Yeah.
It's all good stuff.
It's all good stuff.
Like 60% of the body line isn't even like sexual. So
Yeah.
it gets a bad rep for being just probably because of people like me who like carry their double-ended dildos
Well,
around. But
didn't you? I think like we're totally just going off the train here, but it was Passion Parties and Pure Romance, and Pure Romance was more of the like body like line candles
the
and stuff.
companies were very, very similar in what their product line
Okay.
was, but Pure Romance definitely does it better than what Passion Parties did. So I was
Okay.
originally a consultant for Passion Parties. That's the company I started with. I thought really good things about them, and then we were on January 10th. We got a letter that said, by the way, they've been lying to you for months, and they are filing bankruptcy, and lucky for you, Pure Romance has been stocking their warehouse since November and saving all of your asses, and so you still have a job, but now you're with Pure Romance. And it was very jarring at first, because you always think you're better than your competition, until I actually started looking at the product line and realized that the Pure Romance stuff is actually significantly better than the stuff that I was selling with Passion Parties. So, really good quality stuff. That's Casey's recommendation.
Yeah.
You're just selling us on it.
I haven't gotten to try all of it yet, but I'm getting there.
It creates a better situation. I really like the fact that a lot of women... Milwaukee's different because we have a place called the Tool Shed that's a very sex-positive store that women can go to where they can take training courses. They have like seminars and there's a product range. They're great. But aside from places that have that... For most women, your only option is to order online, which is a terrible idea. Don't ever do it, please. Or to go into the creepy sex toy porn store where the guys are peering at you through the, the sticky
Yeah.
porn racks.
Yeah.
Like,
Or Spencer's.
or Spencer's, but
Spencer's is
it's a novelty. Anything you buy from Spencer's is a novelty, and it's going to be shit compared to like
Fair enough.
companies that actually do it for. I mean, if you compare the best Spencer's toy to like our middle of the road shit toy, it's going to be the same.
will argue that Spencer's bondage tape is really useful.
I think we actually it's the same bondage tape that we carry.
Okay,
I think we
good to
get
know.
the bondage tape
This-
from the same distributor.
This is I used to stretch my ears, and when you're sizing up at a certain point, it's just a lot easier to wrap a little bit of bondage tape around your plug and pop it in, because then you go up a little bit at a time, and the
Right.
stuff is safe on your skin.
Stretches it easier.
So-
yeah. The tape is good, and most of the Pure Romance product line is specific to us and made in house. But some of the stuff that we get from distributors, and I think it's the same distributor that does the body tape because
Good
it's
to
body
know.
tape.
your talk about CD sex stores just reminds me of Sex World up in the Twin Cities, which I will make a recommendation for. It's a
Sex
great
World?
place. It's a little department store in downtown Minneapolis that there's a live peep show in there that you can go to. There's regular sex store stuff, lingerie, porn, stuff like that. There's a giant. The best part about this place, though, is there is a giant golden dick that has a saddle on it that you can put a quarter in, and you can ride that giant golden dick.
That's hilarious.
And it is spectacular.
That sounds like the best field trip.
It was.
I thought you were going to go a different route. So in Minneapolis, there's a sex toy store that has a giant glass bowl of melted dildos that they have as a PSA because this is a very long thing. There's no oversight in the sex toy industry, like from government regulation, so there's nothing to stop a company from using a silicone mixture and then selling it to a customer as 100% silicone. And what happens is if you have silicone mixture toys, they cannot be against any other silicone or silicone mixture toy because the reaction causes melting. So this sex toy store started getting returns from people who were putting all of their silicone mixture toys into the same storage place, and then they were all melting. So they bought this giant bowl, and now they put them all in there, and so people come in and it's just a melted pot of dildos, and they use it as like an educational tool to teach them like the importance of the way that you're properly caring for your sex toys. So that's not as fun as a giant riding golden dick, though.
I should find my picture of myself riding it.
That's glorious. That's fantastic. My recommendation is lube.
Didn't you recommend that?
Use it.
Before?
I'm going to recommend it every single time. That's how strongly I feel about
I'll
it.
second that.
I
You
will
should
also
use
second
it.
that.
Yeah, use lube. Use it all the time. If you want to have a sex until the day you die, use lube.
Continuous. Just you
Even when
start
you're not
fucking.
having sex, just always lube.
You know, people with the vaginal dryness, we actually do recommend using lube once or twice a day, whether they're having sex or not. Actually,
It can help with lots of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's obviously helps with sex. That's my recommendation.
Well, I texted Ryan to tell Andy to come up here. So
Andy!
Andy didn't want us to shout at him when we were done.
I think he just didn't want to be here for the lube and the sex.
and well, he was like, he doesn't, because it's a poor way to end the podcast. I think is what he thinks.
Oh, to have
So
to
just
call him out
shout
here.
for him, because the last bit of every podcast is Andy, Andy.
What's happening for those of you listening is that none of us know how to use the equipment, and I think Andy would cut our hands off if we tried to. So we have to call for him to come up to turn it
We
off
tried.
Down the stairs it would go.
because he does not want to be here to listen to our conversation about dick pics
Okay,
and
bye.
dildos. Bye.
Bye. So yeah, the next podcast is the day of my birthday.